Hello, it's the 31st of December 2020, and in just a few hours we will be leaving Europe. I'm Jamie Jauncey, and this is my great-great-uncle, Robert Cunninghame Graham. Horseman, traveller, adventurer, politician, writer, laird, descendant of kings, socialist, humanitarian, and above all, passionate advocate of Scotland's right to determine her own future. He was appointed founding president of the Scottish National Party in 1934, 2 years before he died. And I know that were he alive today, he would applaud his successor, Mike Russell, for his eloquent and passionate speech yesterday at Holyrood, when he lamented the wrong that's been done to Scotland by our removal against our will from Europe. Robert was an internationalist to his core. He travelled the world widely throughout his life, starting when he was only 17 and he went to South America. He lived in Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay. He went to Venezuela much later, in fact. And he travelled as a young man there, not as a European, curious, looking in, but very much as somebody who lived alongside the people in whose places he found himself, who learnt their languages, who understood their ways of life and loved their stories, and experienced that bond of common humanity that transcends all borders. Later on, he travelled widely in Europe, particularly Spain. He had a Spanish grandmother. And in fact, his nickname throughout his life was Don Roberto, which he was given in South America. And that stuck with him. But he also travelled in Morocco, North Africa, which he came to love. And his belief was that independence was a necessary first step towards full internationalism, and that it was only as an independent nation that Scotland would be able to take her place at the great table of nations and have a voice, be heard, and wield influence. In fact, the fact that she couldn't was an anomaly. Independence, to him as to us these days, seems everywhere else in the world as natural and normal as sunrise or birdsong. And the fact that we are denied the opportunity to play our part on the international stage is a wrong, and certainly an anomaly. The other main plank of his belief in independence was that we would simply be better off running our own affairs than a government composed largely of disinterested politicians 500 or 600 miles away. And the context for him, for his belief in that, was that at the late 19th and early 20th century, Scotland was beset by terrible social ills. There was dire poverty, illness, terrible hardship, appalling working conditions. And he believed that these would never be put right by a government in Westminster, and that the only way that Scotland could become the better place that it should be was if its affairs were being run by Scots, for Scots, in Scotland. I think he would be absolutely astonished today to see the level of support that there is for independence. In his day, it was still a fringe view, although by the time that the Scottish National Party came into being, the movement was beginning to coalesce around that. But the fact that this year there have been 17 successive polls that have put support for independence in the majority, and some of them at close to 60%, would astonish him as much as the fact of our withdrawal, our removal from Europe against our will, would appall him. I think that he would certainly believe now, in different circumstances, 80, 100 years after his own time, that Scotland it needs to be independent in order to become the best country that it can be, in order that we can become the small, tolerant, inclusive, welcoming, socially just European nation that has control, the management of its own very considerable resources. And the fact that we can't is the same wrong now that it was to him in his day. So as we reach the Hogmanay hour, I would leave you with these words of his from a speech that he made in the late 1920s, where he said, "I lay upon you as a sacred duty that you agitate until our old Parliament is restored to us and once again Scotland takes her place as an independent nationality in the family of nations." So we have 5 months now to agitate until the Holyrood elections in May. He's an inspiration to me, and I hope that he might be an inspiration to you. If you don't know about him, try and find out a little bit more. Look him up on Wikipedia. You can go to my blog, robertoandme.com. And all that's left for me to do is to wish you a good new year and an independent 2021.